Since the 7th of October, every day has felt like the 9th of Av. We are still in shock, grieving from the greatest tragedy to befall our people in our lifetime. On Tisha BAv in 2005, Israel pulled out of Gaza, and we paid the ultimate price for dividing our land. Yet, the world is now pressuring Israel to give away more of our biblical heartland. Come and meet men and women who live in Judea and Samaria to understand why we must defend our one Jewish state. Since October 7th, every day felt like Tisha BAv. After 10 months, we are still in shock, grieving from the greatest tragedy to befall our people in our lifetime. On the one hand, October 7th feels like it just happened yesterday, yet at the same time, it seems like a nightmare right out of the darkest periods in ancient Jewish history. The pogroms, crusades, or the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash itself. The 9th of Av has an eerie timelessness about it, going all the way back to the first Tisha B'Av. In the fourth book of the Torah, Sefer Bamidbar, Moshe sent 12 spies to investigate the land of Israel. 10 of them came back with a negative report on the 9th day of the month of Av, leading Bnei Israel to cry out in sadness and fear, asking Hashem to take them back to Egypt. After all that God had done for the Jewish people, taking them out of slavery, splitting the sea, and giving them the Torah, this shocking rejection of the land of Israel became the basis for Tisha B'Av, our national day of mourning. So many terrible things happened on the 9th of Av throughout our history. 19 years ago in Tisha B'Av, 2005, Israel uprooted 21 Jewish communities from the Gaza Strip and handed the area of Gush Katif to the Arabs in an effort to make peace and to allow the Palestinian Arabs the chance to build their own state. At the time, Israel and many American Jews believed in the two-state solution and wanted peace at any price. Others felt that disengaging from Gaza on Tisha B'Av was a foolish political gamble and an ominous repeat of the sin of the spies. Hashem finally returned us to our promised land and gave us Eretz Yisrael, and if we don't act with the reverence that it deserves, we will pay the price. We should never have bartered Israel away like it's a real estate transaction, or gambled it away in some geopolitical deal. October 7th was the final nail in the coffin for those who believed that giving away parts of Eretz Yisrael would lead to peace. Those same Gazans who we gave our land to, invaded Israel and committed all kinds of barbaric acts of cruelty against our people, bringing the terrifying words of Eicha to life. Every year, we sit on the floor and we read Lamentations, but it has never hurt so much to cry out, Eicha Yashva Badad. How the city that was once so full of people sits now like a widow. Kalu b'dma'ot einai, my eyes are spent of weeping. Olaleha halchu shevi lifnei tzahar. Our children have been taken captives by our enemies. Certainly this Tisha B'Av, we must reflect and ask ourselves, what lessons can we learn from so much suffering? We're not living in the year 70 or 1492 or 1939. This is 2024. In addition to the great suffering that we have gone through this year, we have also seen some of the most inspiring stories of self-sacrifice, courage, and resilience. Instead of running away in fear, our brave IDF soldiers ran into the fire. It is in this spirit that we wanted to offer unique inspiration this Tisha B'Av to look into the eternal messages of Eicha and the keynote and offer a practical response to the destruction of October 7th. Our enemies might be full of hate, but our nation is full of love. They destroy, but we build. Eicha and many of the keynote are very specific in drawing our attention to the destruction of Yerushalayim, the devastation of Judea, and the suffering of Samaria. L'cha Hashem Hasdaka, Kina 6 says, and it includes the line that describes the destruction and the desolation of the cities of Judea. Aryeh Kodesh samchu v'not Zion havelu, Aryeh Yehuda nimsoru v'naflu be'ein Moshiach. The cities of Judea have been given over and fallen, with no one to save them. Kina 26, Eich naflu giborim, mourns the destruction and refers to Samaria, among other places that suffer devastation. Nifla ateres roshenu yasom Yehuda v'Yisrael goresh mishomron. The crown upon our head has fallen. Judea and Israel are orphans. We have been expelled from Samaria. Therefore, in light of October 7th, we wanted to focus our attention this year on Judea and Samaria. What is so significant about Yehuda v'Shomron? These areas are talked about a lot in the news as being the, quote, occupied territories, or the so-called West Bank, or an obstacle to peace, full of violent Jewish settlers who are standing in the way of the two-state solution that the world is calling for with even more urgency since October 7th. I wanted to learn more about Yehuda v'Shomron and thought that the best way would be to get to know the people who actually live there. And I thought that the best place to start was with a man who has lived in Yehuda v'Shomron for decades and whose family was one of the original pioneers. Gush Etzion is the region of Judea and Samaria just south of Yerushalayim. And Aryeh Routtenberg is a teacher, a tour guide, and a historian. And he's also the son-in-law of some of the original pioneers who built Gush Etzion in 1943 as a home for refugees from the Holocaust. Unfortunately, those original pioneers were living surrounded by hostile Arabs, and during the War of Independence, they came under siege by their neighbors, the surrounding Arab villages, and were cut off from the rest of the Yeshuv, the Jewish communities. On May 13th, 1948, just one day before Ben-Gurion declared independence for the new state of Israel, the Jews in Gush Etzion were completely surrounded and had no choice but to surrender. As soon as they turned in their weapons, the Arabs massacred everyone who was alive. Some of the children, however, had escaped to Jerusalem and would look longingly toward the south. And in the faint distance, they could see a lone oak tree standing on a hilltop in what was once their homes in Gush Etzion. For 19 years, they would look longingly towards that oak tree, which gave them hope that one day they would return to Judea and Samaria. Aryeh, we're standing here in front of a beautiful tree, but it also has an amazing story. Tell us the story of this oak tree.
The tree is the symbol of life for the Etzion block. The Etzion block was founded by the parents of my wife. They first came here in the spring of 1943. They came here with the hope that survivors of the Holocaust would be able to come to this new area and to reestablish Jewish life in the Judean Hill. By 1947, there were 4 kibbutzim, 4 collective settlements here in the Etzion block. They all knew this tree because the road in those days came by the tree. And although they had planted thousands of trees in the area, they all knew that this was the tree. November 29th, 1947, the United Nations decided on the partition plan. Israel accepted this partition plan, and immediately thereafter, they went to war. On December the 11th, a convoy left Jerusalem on their way back home here to the Etzion block, and they were attacked on the road, and 10 of the defenders were killed on the road. And that's the beginning of the siege in the hills of Hebron. And the siege, which was to continue from December the 11th until the founding of the State of Israel, until May 14th. On the day of the founding of Israel, that was the day of the fall of the Etzion bloc. This was the end of a 3-day battle when the Arab Legion attacked the Etzion bloc. All the defense posts were taken over, including this hill where we are standing now, was taken over by the Arab Legion. The defenders left their defense posts and they came to the center of the village. At that point, when after they had given up their ammunition, the Arabs began to shoot at them. The result was that 80 members of the kibbutz were killed. What remained was this tree. And this tree you were able to see from within the borders, the small borders of the State of Israel. And the survivors and people who knew about the Etzion bloc for 19 years would look beyond the border and say, you see that tree over there? That's the Etzion bloc. And for the children of the Etzion bloc, they said, you see that? That's your home. And you will be going back there someday. When? Nobody knew when.
So all of the people who were living here were either murdered or evacuated and were living in the State of Israel. In 1967, the war breaks out. Miraculously, Israel liberates not only Jerusalem, but this area, which you're referring to as the Etzion bloc, the Etzion area.
It's part of the great dream of the people of Israel to return to the land of Israel. Why couldn't Abraham be a monotheist in Mesopotamia? The Bible doesn't tell us why he could not, but it tells us that his mission is to fulfill the dream of monotheism. In the land of Israel, you can fulfill your mission. And Judea and Samaria is the heart of the land of Israel.
After the Six-Day War, the State of Israel more than doubled in size, and we began settling the new territories of Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland. In the hopes of a future peace plan, Israel did not annex the territories officially, but at the same time encouraged settlement in strategic and important historic areas. The settlement movement attracted some of the most idealistic Jewish pioneers during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s until today. However, this lack of clarity has left Judea and Samaria in limbo, being pulled in two different directions from the local Arab population and the Jewish people. In the 1990s, Israel and the PLO, under the leadership of arch-terrorist Yasser Arafat, began peace talks known as the Oslo Accords, and the area of Yehuda v'Shomron was divided into Areas A for the Palestinian Arabs, Area C for Israeli settlement, and Area B, which is somewhere in the middle. The 1990s was a time of great debate in Israel whether the PLO or the Palestinian Authority could be trusted as a peace partner, and a group of women began to protest giving any of our land back to our enemies. At the time, they were dismissed as right-wing militant extremists, but in retrospect, we can see how right they were. I wanted to talk to some of these incredible Jewish women. In the 1990s, Nadia Matar saw the mission facing Am Yisrael and jumped at the chance to shape Jewish history by helping to settle Yehuda v'Shomron. The Six-Day War was this great miracle, but tragically, the government never really finished the job, and they didn't declare sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. Tell us why that's important.
As my mother always says, that since I'm a baby, I already said Israel, always feeling that the home of the Jewish people is to be in Israel. But officially, I came at the age of 18 alone, and I met my husband David, who had come on Aliyah with his family. And when we were discussing where shall we live, and we understood we wanted to get married, we said we didn't want to live just in a city. We wanted to live where today's pioneers are. And that's when we decided that we wanted to live in Efrat. We wanted to be part of those who are mistakenly called settlers, which in Hebrew is a beautiful word, mitnachalim. And as you know, every word in Hebrew has a root. the root of Nachala, Mitnachalim is Nachala, heritage. So the real translation of those who live in Judea and Samaria and in God's given biblical heartland is the inheritors of the land. And we wanted to join the inheritors of the land. And in 2005, when we returned from the horrible destruction of the Jewish communities in the Gaza Strip, Gush Katif, and we returned to our homes, and we started seeing how the Arabs in Judea and Samaria started taking over illegally land in Area C. That's when we woke up. And we, our organization at the time called Women in Green, we started fighting together with other organizations, but we were really one of the first ones in 2005 to shout, they're taking over our land, let's plant, let's do. After 6 years of trying to safeguard local hills here and there, Judith Katzover, she says we're not gonna win this battle if we're only gonna focus on the local building here, another caravan here. Of course, we're not against that. We wish that we're not gonna be able to compete. They have billions of dollars. And Judith says if we wanna safeguard Judea and Samaria, we have to now, in 2011, add a level to the fight, and that is the political, Medini, the political level. We have to, the left has a plan, which we oppose. It's a suicide. Two-state solution, the creation of a Palestinian state. What is our plan, she said? Let's promote and raise the flag of what should have been done on the 6th day of the Six-Day War, and they didn't do, the application of Israeli sovereignty. That's when we turned our name from Women in Green to the sovereignty movement. One of the main slogans in the Palestinian Authority is first the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. First we get rid of the Jews, then we get rid of the Christians. We're in this together. Because the battle here is not about this piece of land or that piece of land. The battle about the land is about the battle of Islam, of radical Islam against Western civilization. We are here to represent all of you who believe in the Bible, all of you who believe that God gave us this land, and who believe that there is good and there is bad. I want to liberate the Arabs of the area here, our neighbors here, from the Palestinian Authority with sovereignty and give a good life to the Jews and the Arabs alike. And then you will see a complete change.
If it wasn't for Nadia, the Arab city of Beit Lechem would have kept expanding, choking off Yerushalayim from the south and Efrat from the north. However, Nadia wasn't alone. She collaborated with her friends and neighbors who were equally passionate and shared a love for the land and people of Israel. Let's meet one more of these heroines. Listen to Sharon Katz describe her own experience as an Israeli settler settling the Dagan Hill shortly after making Aliyah from New York. Sharon, we're here in one of the most beautiful communities in all of Judea and Samaria, Efrat. Tell us the story about how you and your friends developed the Dagan Hill.
So when we came to Efrat, there were only 3 hills. Even though Efrat had a municipal boundary that included 7 hills, at the time of the Oslo Agreement, only 3 hills were populated, so the 4 other hills were in danger. Many people of Efrat were dismayed by the fact that, God forbid, we might not be able to build on our other hills. So one night, a plan was hatched. We decided that we would go up to the Dagan, which is, at that time, was our northernmost hill, or supposed to be our northernmost hill. And we called our friends, and we told them that we were planning a Zionist activity. We didn't tell them where we were going. They had no idea what the Zionist activity was. And we get to the Dagan, and they're like, where are we? We're on Givat HaDagan, Efrat's northernmost hill. Well, what are we doing here? We're settling the land. The next morning, we were shocked that we were still there, that the army let us stay there. And every morning afterwards, for the next 3 weeks, we were shocked again that we were still there. But we began getting the Dagan ready for people. We lived a fantastic 3 weeks up on the Dagan. It was just so much fun. Even eating peanut butter and jelly every single day was fun. And then one morning we woke up to red signs on the refrigerator and all kinds of different items on the Dagan that we were being evacuated. Evacuation notices. And we felt very frightened because we were a very few in number. And suddenly we saw from this area, right where we're sitting, we saw like a snake, and it was a snake of people.
Reinforcements.
Yes, our friends from Efrat and Gush Hatzion had come to be with us. And they pulled us down, we ran back up. They pulled us down, they ran back up. They, like towards the evening, they got smart and they put us on buses. And they carted us off to the Bethlehem jail, the prison. And we sat there, there were like, I think there were like 200 of us who were sitting overnight. In the morning, we woke up, they gave us breakfast, a cucumber, a tomato, and an egg. And then they let us go. And then we planned our next aliyah to the Dagan. We went up to the Dagan 2 more times. And finally, I think the government just said, you know, what's with these women? We can't deal with these crazy women of the Dagan. And look, it took 10 years, or even more than 10 years to finally build on the Tamar and the Dagan. But look at how beautiful it is now. Look how many, I think there are like 350 families that live on the Dagan today.
Including your own children.
My own children. That was my dream, that one day my children would live in the Dagan, and I got it. So my eldest son and his children and his family live in the Dagan. My other kids are spread all over Israel, but thank God. We love Israel, so it's okay.
Today, the Dagan in Efrat is a bustling neighborhood of more than 400 Jewish families with a high percentage of Olim from the United States. Thanks to Nadia, Sharon, and ultimately hundreds and then thousands of Zionist activists, the Dagan remained in Israeli hands. And Efrat is an incredible city. Zionism is not just a political movement that began 76 years ago with the establishment of the State of Israel, or 128 years ago when Theodor Herzl organized the first World Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland. The Zionist dream was established 4,000 years ago when Hashem said to Avraham Avinu, Lech Lecha. When we roll up our sleeves and we get involved with building up Eretz Yisrael, we are partnering in the ancient story of our people from the times of Tanakh until today. I wanted to talk with someone who is really living out the biblical lifestyle. Originally from Atlanta, Georgia, Jeremy Gimpel and his wife Tehila moved with their children not only to Israel, but to the front lines. Jeremy, it's great to be here at Aryeh Goat Farm. Very significant location, great real estate. Tell us a little bit about the biblical significance of where we are right now.
Well, the most prophesied event in the Bible is the ingathering of the exiles. It's mentioned over 40 times in the Bible, mentioned by every single prophet. And when the Jews started coming back to the land, first we started in Tel Aviv. That was the first city that we built, literally on the water. And then with time, we were going deeper and deeper into the promised land, promised to us. And so the Aryeh Goat Farm is at the edge of Jewish settlement in the land of Israel. So if you see this movement coming from around the world, entering into the promise, you've arrived at the tip of the spear, the cutting edge of our move into the land of Israel. So the Aryeh Goat Farm is built on the Aryeh Goat Valley, which is the top of the Ein Gedi Spring. In the Bible, these mountains are called the mountains of Ziph. And it's mentioned when David kills Goliath, the first king of Israel becomes insanely jealous and chases David. And it says that David escapes to the mountains, the wilderness, and the caves of Ziph.
Wait a minute. So King David was actually here?
King David was literally in the caves that are right around this mountaintop. On top of that, the reason why King David ran to the mountains of Ziph was because this is where he would take his sheep out to pasture from the outskirts of Bethlehem. And so when he was alone in the mountains as a young boy, most of the book of Psalms was written in the mountains of Ziph before David became king. The fundamental covenant that God made with Abraham was the land of Israel. That was his promise. That's why this is called the promised land. And so there are forces that don't want to see that promise come to fulfillment. And so our mission is to live by faith and to pursue that promise until every inch of the land of Israel is settled, because we believe that's actually the key to unlocking peace for the entire world.
How fortunate we are to live in a generation of such heroes. Despite the horrific trauma we have lived through this year, we are heading towards a great future. Rav Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Cook was the first to recognize that the secular movement of Zionism wasn't in conflict with the Torah. He saw that secular Zionism was part of Hashem's plan to lay the foundation for religious Zionism. In fact, when Herzl died in 1904, Rav Kook gave a eulogy and incredibly described Herzl as being the Mashiach ben Yosef, who will pave the way for the ultimate Mashiach ben David. However, in some ways, secular Zionism and even religious Zionism has stalled. Zionism has become a dirty word around the world. Our enemies are protesting in the street, and it seems like there's nothing we can do. But it's not about our enemies. We've lost the passion. We've lost the vision. Where are we headed? I wanted to find out more about what is next for Zionism, so I went to Efrat to speak to one of the most inspirational voices of our generation, the famous singer, songwriter, and Rav of the Shirat David Shul, Rabbi Shlomo Katz, who explained beautifully what is the next and final step of Zionism, Israel, and the Jewish people. Rav Shlomo, thank you for inviting me into your synagogue.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Why do American Jews leave the comforts of the United States and move to a dangerous place like Judea and Samaria?
If I had to guess, what most people would say is that the Jewish people are part of the narrative of yesterday, today, and more importantly, tomorrow. We're very aware of our role. We're aware of what our role has been until now. And we're aware right now that we're in the midst of the revelation of what has been promised to us for so long, and we don't want to be spectators. We can't be spectators. We're on the court. We're on the court, and we're aware of it. We're on the court, and you don't get hurt when you're on the bench. I grew up in the States. I made Aliyah twice. I made Aliyah with my family as a 9-year-old in 1989 from Los Angeles. Family moved back to Los Angeles in 96, 97. And then in 2002, I moved back to Israel on my own, here, to this area.
And this area meaning Judea and Samaria.
Judea and Samaria.
Was there something about this area that drew you more than other parts of Israel?
We're literally in King David's backyard, the Song of David. And it's an amazing, amazing thing that it could very well be that where you and I are sitting right now, some of the most profound pieces of Psalms were composed right here where we're sitting, Songs of David. The redemption of the world is not only for the Jewish people. The redemption of the world is for all of mankind. The rebuilding of the third temple is where all nations of the world will come and bring their sacrifice. Every single nation has their own song. The problem is that we think we have to get every nation to sing the same song. It's not true. We need every nation to sing their own song, and when everyone sings their own song, it'll be amazing how the harmonies are gonna just mesh and come together, creating the greatest symphony in the world.
Would you mind singing us something? Sing us a song?
Oh, with honor. Gladly, gladly. So this is a song from 2 different prophecies, from Jeremiah and Isaiah. And it's in Hebrew and English. ואהבת עולם אהבתיך, על כן משכתיך חסד and everlasting love. I have loved you, for this I have drawn you with my love. The mountains will crumble and the hillsides will fade away, but my love for you will not end. The mountains will crumble.
As Rav Shlomo beautifully described, Jewish history is moving from secular Zionism to religious Zionism to universal Zionism. Ultimately, not only the Jews are impacted by Israel, but the whole world will begin to look toward us, not with hatred, but with love. The Torah promises us that one day, the nations will no longer call us occupiers and accuse us of apartheid, but they will support us. The Midrash says that Mashiach will be born on Tisha B'Av. I believe that Mashiach is here, and he's waiting for us to overcome the sin of the spies, to get passionate about Eretz Yisrael. He's waiting for us to take action and stand up on behalf of our biblical heartland. and say this is ours. It's not just the soldiers of the IDF who are defending our people. Each and every one of us can learn from Aryeh, Nadia, Sharon, Jeremy, and Rav Shlomo. Thanks to the courageous Jewish families of Yehuda v'Shomron, our land no longer sits alone and abandoned. This Tisha B'Av, we must call our Megillah by a different name, not Eicha, how could it be, but rather Ayeka, where are you? Every Jew must hear the voice of Hashem and the voice of Jewish history calling out to us, where are you? Where are you, sons and daughters of Israel? It's no longer time to sit quietly. The time has come to stand up, united in strength to build up our land. They want to wipe out all the Jews from the river to the sea. We're going to settle every hilltop. They want to divide our land. We're here to say we will support the one Jewish state. This Tisha B'Av is our time to say that they destroy and we will build.
Zionism has become a dirty word. Anti-Semitism is out of control. On October 7th, Israelis were massacred, and now Jews don't feel safe anywhere in the world. A year ago, Israel was at the brink of civil war, with the left-wing progressives trying to bring down the government. And in America, the younger generation of Jews don't feel nearly as connected as their parents and grandparents to Israel. So what is the future of Zionism? I'm Rabbi Tuly Weisz, the founder of Israel365, which has been promoting Israel for over a decade, primarily to non-Jews. At first, my Jewish friends thought I was crazy. Why would a nice Jewish boy want to be spending so much time with evangelicals? But now, my friends lament that Christians love Israel more than the Jews. So if that's the sentiment, folks, we know that we're in trouble. How did we get here? We have thousands of synagogues and hundreds of Jewish schools around the country, but where has our education system broke down? Through my work at Israel365, I have learned a lot about what non-Jews really think of Israel, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I therefore feel like I have some insights into how the Zionist movement must get back on track so that we not only make sure that non-Jewish Americans love Israel, but more importantly, that the next generation of Jews support the Jewish state. That is why Israel365 is running a party in the 2025 World Zionist Congress elections called One Jewish State. We took the name from Ambassador David Friedman's book by the same name, where he outlines his vision of how to create a strong, safe, and sovereign state of Israel. If you're not one of those Jews with trembling knees, then we are your one Jewish state. If you want to be a part of the new movement that will help turn Zionism from a curse word into a term that connotes respect from our friends and even a bit of fear in our enemies, then we are your one Jewish state. If you want your Jewish children and your non-Jewish neighbors' children to love Israel even more than your parents and grandparents, then we are your one Jewish state. We are now looking for one Jewish state delegates to represent us in the World Zionist Congress. The WZC was established in 1896 by Theodor Herzl until this day is the parliament of the Jewish people that allocates $1 billion per year towards Jewish education, identity, and Zionism. While the WZC built the State of Israel in recent decades, this important body has come under the control of the secular left establishment. We're looking for one Jewish state delegates, men and women who are frustrated with the current situation, who love America, and who are passionate about Israel. If you are willing to serve as a one Jewish state delegate, please send an email to the address on the screen. We believe that with you as a one Jewish state delegate, we are uniquely situated to take a leadership role in the WZC and help shape the Zionist future.